Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, we will discuss about table function. Table function is a function that can be invoked inside the from clause of a select statement. They return collections, usually nested tables or V arrays, which can then be transformed with the table clause into a dataset of rows and columns that can be processed in a SQL statement. Table functions come in very handy when you need to merge session specific data with data from tables. You have got data and lots of it sitting in tables, but in your session and not in your tables, you have some data and you need to merge these two sources together in a SQL statement. In other words, you need the set oriented power of SQL to get some answers. With the table operator, you can accomplish precisely that. Programmatically construct a dataset to be passed as rows and columns to the host environment. Your web page needs to display some data in a nice, neat report. That data is, however, far from neat. In fact, you need to execute procedural code to construct the dataset. Sure, you could construct the data, insert into a table and then select from the table. But with the table function, you can deliver that data immediately to the web page without any need for non-query DML. Emulate a parameterized view. Oracle database does not allow you to pass parameters to a view, but you can pass parameters to a function and use that as the basis for what is in essence a parameterized view. Improve performance of a parallelized queries with pipelined table functions. Many data warehouse applications rely on parallel query to greatly improve performance of massive ETL operations. But if you execute a table function in the from class, that query will serialize blocked by the call to the function unless you define that function a pipelined function and enable it for parallel execution. Reduce consumption of process global area pipeline table functions. Collections which are constructed and returned by normal table functions can consume an awful lot of PGA, which is process global area. But if you define that table function as pipelined, PGA consumption becomes a non-issue. To call a function from within the from clause of a query, you need to define the return data type of the function to be a collection type, usually a nested or a V array, but under some circumstances you can also use an associative array. The type must be defined at the schema level, for example create or replace type, or in package specification for pipelined table functions only. Make sure that all parameters to the functions are of mode in and have SQL compatible data types. For example, you cannot call a function with a boolean or record type argument inside a query. Embed the call to the function inside the table clause. As of 12.1 Oracle, you can often invoke the function directly in the from clause with using table. Here we will see how to build and query from very simple table functions. One that returns an array of strings and more generally scalars. If you are not yet familiar with PLSQL collections, so you need to check some tutorial on that. First we will see the create table function, how we will create a table function. It's a simple command, create or replace type. First we create type because as we discussed earlier, we need some type, v array or some to pass the parameters. So we will first create type string underscore t is table of voucher to 100. This is a simple example. Then we can create our function, create or replace function, random strings, count in integer. We define return strings underscore t. Okay, then auth id definer is L strings, and here we are defining variables. You can see that in for loop we defined our function dbm as random.string, and then we are returning L strings. Another function is, now we are calling our function which we declared above. You can see in declare we defined L strings, then strings underscore t equals random strings of 5. Now we are in for loop, we can see the value of the index. So the function does its job inside a PLSQL block. Now let's use it as a table function. First we tested our function, it is working fine. So now we will test it with our table clause. In the from clause of your query, write where you would have the table name, type in means type table, as you can see, table bracket function name, parameter list, and bracket close. You can and should give that table clause a table alias. You can, starting in Oracle Database 12c, also use named notation when invoking the function. You can also call built-in functions for the value returned by the table function. Oracle Database automatically uses the string column underscore value as the name of the single column returned by the table function. You can rename it using a column alias. As you can see here, select rs.column underscore value my string. We give our alias from table random strings, parameter value we give 5, and we give alias to the table rs. These are examples in front of you to define, to call. If you didn't give alias, then you with the column name, no need to write the alias name. So these commands you can see and you can run at your level, and you can check. It's pretty cool. Now blending table functions and in-table data. Now that the data from my function can be treated as rows and columns, I can use it just as I would any other data set in my select statement. Normally I can join to this inline view, perform set operations like union and intersect and more. So we can see some examples. As you can see, this select statement, e dot last name from table, and second we are using physical table from HR schema, where length of e dot last name less than length of column value of first table. Here we can define rs dot if we want, because we defined alias here. There is another select which is showing how we can use a union all with this table function. I can also call the table function inside a select statement that is inside PLSQL. As you can see here in for loop, like for rec in, here we can write any kind of select statement. So here we can write also as a table function query, and then we can see the value through dbms output.put line. Now we will discuss left correlations and table functions. A left correlation join occurs when you pass as an argument to your table function a column value from a table or view referenced to the left in the table clause. This technique is used with XML table and JSON table built-in functions, but also applied to your own table functions. Here we need to remember something. The function will be called for each row in the table or view that is providing the column to the function. Clearly, this could cause some performance issues, so be sure that that is what you want and need to do. You can see the below code as an example. First, here we are creating one physical table, then we are inserting some values, and now we are creating here type function. Type, we are creating type, and then we are creating function. In this function we are using lnumbers.extend id underscore in multiplied by 5, and then index for loop. This for loop is id underscore n multiplied by 5. It is running till 1 to id in underscore in multiplied by 5, and we are here we are just passing index value to the l underscore numbers. This, after creating this function, now we will call this function. Like in this for loop, we are calling our table function through SQL. Here we are using one as a physical table and one table function, and we can see the value or numbers rec dot thing underscore numbers. Where table function can be defined. To invoke a table function inside a select statement, it must be defined at the schema level with the create or replace function. You have seen this already. Or in the specification of a package. It cannot be defined as a nested subprogram or a private subprogram. So we can see example how we can define in the package. So first we have to create the type, then we can create package specification. In package specification, normally as you are defining function, same. In package body also we can define as a normal function, and that function we can call in our select statement as a table function. As you can see, is from table tf dot strings. Tf is a package name and strings is a function. But a reference to a nested or private subprogram cannot be resolved in SQL layer, which is where of course the select statement executes. So error result, as you can see below. Here we test it as a normal function in the declare. We define in the declare function, and now we are trying to use it as in our select, which is causing an error. As it is mentioning, nested strings function may not be used in SQL. So just to show you what error will appear and how you can define where table functions can be defined. New to 12.1. You can now use the with clause to define functions directly inside a select statement. Such a function can also be used as a table function. As you can see here, an example with, and then we can define function, and then we can complete the function, and then we in select associated with the with can use that function as a table function. So you understand that with our PLSQL we cannot define function in our declare, and we cannot use it in select statement of the same PLSQL. But with the with clause after Oracle version 12 we can use it in our with clause. So this is a good feature. Valid collection types for the table functions. There are basically two things to keep in mind when it comes to the collection type used in the return clause of a table function. The collection type must be declared so that the SQL engine can resolve a reference to it. The collection type or the attributes within that type must be SQL compatible. You cannot return a collection of booleans for a table function. The SQL engine generally can resolve references to the types and PLSQL programs if they are defined at the schema level or within the specification of a package. When it comes to the table functions, types defined within a package specification can only be used with pipelined table functions. This is, you can see as the example below. Here we defined type and then package and then package body, and then we are using in our select statement as a table function through package. So these examples are here just to show you the code. You can run that code in your environment and you can test it. See, but here when I try to use the strings function, I get the ORA 0092 invalid data type error, since it relies on a package defined nested table type and is not pipelined. So here we see the summary what we discussed here. You should now have a solid grounding in what constitutes a table function, how to build a table function that returns a collection of scalars, and how to invoke that table function inside a select statement. Just remember, define the return data type of the function to be a collection type, usually a nested table or a V-array. But under some circumstances, you can also use an associative array. The type must be defined at the schema level or in a package specification. Make sure that all parameters to the function are of mode in and have SQL compatible data types. You cannot call a function with a boolean or record type argument inside a query. Embed the call to the function inside the table clause. As of 12.1, you can often invoke the function directly in the from clause with using table. I hope this is helpful for you. In the summary I wrote in detail, so sometimes you are hearing what I am saying, but we skip some words and it should be written so you can understand it properly. You can read it by yourself and you can understand. I hope you like it. So thank you for listening. and I hope I make it understandable for you. Thank you. We will meet in the next video. Till then, bye and Allah Hafiz.